Cuando estoy en la computadora. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cesar Zuniga, and I'm the chairman of Community Board 7. The whole reason why we're here is to hear your voices. So I want to reiterate that this is going to be a meeting. The expectation for tonight is that we want to make very clear to the DOC and all of the relevant agencies
what our expectations and what our vision is for our community. 係啦，佢就今次咧就係呢個會議咧最主要都係我哋華人嘅社區而設㗎，咁所以咧希望咧我哋喺爭取嘅同時裏邊咧，咁我哋咧可以喺需要嘅時候咧就去聆聽下佢哋，咁但係當我哋需要出聲嗰時，我哋就要踴躍去出聲啦。So I want to encourage
¿Y ahora? ¿Me oyes ahora?
To speak.
Sí me oyes. In the Spanish channel? En el Spanish channel, ¿verdad?
Listening to your suggestions and your ideas about what we want to see for this community. 係啦，咁喺後邊咧就有一個簽名嘅紙㗎。咁如果大家咩人咧係想繼續去講嘢嘅話咧，咁可以咧喺同事嗰度咧就去簽名㗎。咁由於人數嘅眾多咧，咁所以可能個時間就唔係咁多。咁大家總踴躍去簽名啦。如果你覺得係有需要講嘢嘅話。
I want to just quickly thank Paul Mack. I want to thank Jimmy Lee, the chair of the Immigration Committee, and I obviously want to thank Zach JC, the chair of the Transportation Committee, for working hard together. And I also want to thank
han estado trabajando juntos.
For coming here tonight.
Gracias por venir esta noche y que obviamente este proyecto es muy caliente, que hay muchos que han comentarios. Y lo que pido es que a todos escuchen para poder incorporar así para...
Hola, ¿cómo? 等陣先，等請坐低，請坐低嚇。係啦，咁佢話咧，咁其實今次係一個難得嘅機會嚟。因為喺咁多呢個疫情上面咧，咁我哋要揾到個地方可以坐到咁多人嘅話咧，咁都係好難得嘅。咁除咗多謝出席之外咧，咁我哋呢個第7社區委員會咧，咁好多工作人員同埋委員咧都係用咗好多時間先係安排到呢個機會㗎。咁就係多謝大家嘅出席啦。多謝。係好多謝呢個交通局咧，咁係今日係願意出席㗎。
這個交通局哈，這是現在非常感謝大家來參加這個會議。
Hold on. Maybe I want you to hold on because we're running the meeting. Your announcements. So you're the audience.
Yes.
And by definition, that means that you listen and then we listen to you. Okay. So give me 1 minute.
Okay. Give me 1 minute.
I just told you, give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. We're trying to.
Okay, I am ready for the announcements in Spanish.
Okay. Give me 1 minute, please. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the next thing we want to do, hold on, people. The next thing that we want to do is a moment. I want to explain something to everyone. We have other folks attending this meeting virtually. So we're going to need a minute of silence to get the interpreter and all of the people on Zoom ready to participate. So for now, 1 minute, and then I turn it over to Zach, who is going to run the meeting. Thank you.
So maybe, and Crystal, would you please make your announcements now?
Okay, yes. So Spanish go first, right?
Yes, Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches a todos, bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Si ustedes desean escuchar esta reunión en español, tenemos interpretación en vivo, simultánea. Por favor, en su computadora van a ver la opción del globo terráqueo, el icono del globo terráqueo en la barra de abajo en su computadora. Por favor, presionen en el globito y ahí entonces escojan español para escuchar la reunión en español. Si más adelante durante la presentación tienen preguntas o quieren hacer una declaración, la pueden hacer usando el español y nosotros les vamos a traducir. Gracias. Thank you.
大家晚上好，欢迎参加今天晚上这个交通委员会的会议。如果需要国语的，你可以在下面有一个球，可以按一下国语、中文哈。我们今天晚上会有这个国语的翻译，谢谢大家 ，Thank you。
Okay, Leiby and Crystal, I'm going to transfer you now to the Spanish and Chinese channels respectively.
Excellent, and then please also promote Haley as well.
Haley, okay, I will find her and I will add her.
And
Right,
also
thank you.
Scott, also Jeremy, also Scott, he's not on the
Okay,
Spanish line. Thank you.
I thought I added Scott, but I will add him now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you on the English line. I haven't added
right.
you yet. Give me
Okay.
one moment.
So Harry, make sure that Jeremy knows you in online, okay?
I have her.
How to
I
let
have her.
them know? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, but
Okay.
you should, I've added you all now and you should be able to be heard on the Spanish and Chinese
Okay.
and Mandarin channels.
Jeremy,
For some
no.
reason, two of you have not been joined. Give me a second.
Oh, yeah, Jeremy, I don't see my channel as yet.
Oh, you should be added.
And I don't see the option either.
Okay, so so where it says interpretation on the bottom.
No, I
No,
don't
I
see
haven't
it on
seen
my
yet.
screen.
Yeah, me neither.
It usually comes as an invitation and we have to accept it. I haven't
Right.
seen that.
Yeah.
I had you on this before. I don't know why it's not.
Oh,
now
now
I
it's
see
good.
it. I'll go
Now I
into
got it.
Spanish.
I had
Thank
to
you
hit
so
start.
much.
No problem,
Okay.
no problem.
We're going to explain the format in just 1 minute. Once Jeremy finishes setting up the Zoom, then we'll explain the format. And I promise everyone will get a chance to speak. That's what we're here for tonight.
Sí. O sea, ¿tú primero o yo primero? Ok, ok. Ok, está bien.
Not yet.
Todavía.
I don't know why it's not doing this.
I see the before, Jeremy, now it's disappear.
I don't know why it's doing that. Give me a second. I don't know why it's not adding. It's not adding two people.
Yeah.
Okay,
got
Scott,
it.
you should have been added now. So I guess it's only letting me do one at a time.
Ok, Spanish. Do you hear? ¿Me oyes?
Now it disappear, Jeremy. I saw it before, now it
Yeah,
disappear.
I know, it's not staying.
Yeah.
Let's try this again. Nope, I can't add you. Added one of you.
So maybe,
Let's try it one more time.
okay.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you.
Okay.
It does not want to add Haley.
Yeah, I'm here. This is Haley. Mandarin?
Yeah, but it's not adding you as an interpreter.
Do I need to do anything then?
You don't, I do.
Okay.
Jeremy, maybe we log off and come back right at the beginning. Sometimes that works.
So Crystal, you can stay.
Okay.
Haley, maybe you should log off and I'll add you as you rejoin. Why don't you start, Zach?
Okay, so I should close all the way and then.
Close, then come back.
Okay, all right, then I join again. All right, close now.
Zach Chasey. I'm the chair of the Community Board 7 Transportation Committee. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Gracias a todos por haber venido.
Presentation.
欢迎参加今天晚上交通委员会的会议。
They're going to present their
Van a presentar
for the conversion of 7th and 8th Avenue.
para
那
la
今天晚上我们
conversión
会讲一下这
de
个
Zoom.
Brooklyn 那个
Make
D7
their
跟
proposal
八大道
with no interruptions. And then we will go on to the question and answer session right up.
那等一下我们会有那个
people that have signed
问
up to
题的那个部分。
If you did not sign up, please come up to this table. Come to
Y
Paul. and he will
necesitan firmar la mesa.
and we'll put you on the list. We're going to go from, we'll take a name off this list, and then we're going to take a name off the Zoom list, and we're going to go back and forth that way. This is our first hybrid meeting, so we appreciate you guys working with us. And we're going to try to, and we're going to ask that we keep our questions to 2 minutes, because there's a lot of people that want to speak tonight, and we want to allow everyone to have a chance to speak. Now, in order to allow everyone to have a chance to speak, we need to maintain order in here. We can't have screaming, can't have yelling, we can't have talking out of turn, because all that's going to do is force us to end the meeting, have people removed. That's not what we want to do. We want to allow everyone to ask questions. This is a very big deal. This is going to have a big impact on the community. And this is your opportunity to ask questions and get responses. Paul, do you want to thank you.
I'll translate. 基本上我们这边会议就要开始，那这边要提醒大家，程序上面做事还有开会的程序，上面他们就像今天一样，在他们的计划，在第一期社区委员会针对我们他们的交通委员这边，他们要再做一次发表以后这个社区活动开放问答的部分。那个时候问答，如果你们有问题，你们就可以提问。然后接下来如果问答的部分需要提问的话，你可以找这个我们麦会长麦保罗这边先跟他登记，那他会根据因为我们这个是混合会议，一半网络上一半现场，所以现场我们会轮流交替的提问，所以如果有需要的先在这边要先登记，那他就会看情况，然后轮流叫。那一样，如果你发言需要英文的，你们可以直接发言；需要中文发言，我可以帮你们翻译。他的回答我也帮你们翻译，谢谢。I assume so, right? It's the same one. 这个他们的这个 presentation， 他们的计划都是同一个，所以你们已经看过好几次，没错。大家要理解。每一个 I understand. I will. I know. 这个会议是开给第7社区交通委员会交通委员，他们的委员要被 present 到，开放社区民众参加。很感谢大家今天来出席，发表你们的意见，但是程序要走完，他们必须要对社区委员会的交通委员做发表，他们才能投票。社区委员会要投票，要有经过程序，社区委员才能投票。
你们的计划有没有跟上一期的有没有改变？上一期我们已经跟大家表现过，
I know.
还有所有改变，把我们的反应回去跟他们办公室里面大家安排过。
这个问题，这程序有程序，这个问题欢迎你等一下我们 presentation 做完了以后，你对着他们直接问。Right， 这个非常欢迎，开放直接问交通局，但是程序你要越早让他们做完 presentation， 你们越早可以问问题。
Yes, that's a fine advice.
All right.
Sir, if you're not happy with this process, you don't have to be here.
大家要理解，你们对，没错，你们的问答在 presentation 之后就可以开始提问，但是你要让他们做完 presentation， 你要让他们做完 presentation，OK？ 如果这半个小时你们觉得浪费你们时间，你们可以在外面就休息一下，走了一走，等他们做完 presentation， 反正你们听过了，再回来对他们问问题也可以，可以吗？好，程序上面赶快走完就好。
Thank you. So I would like to introduce the representatives from the Department of Transportation that are here tonight. We have Keith Bray, who's the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner. We have Emily Reclame. I'm sorry. We have Chris Brunson, and we have Ben Schwed. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time for mispronouncing anybody's name tonight. And so with that introduction, I'll turn it over to you guys and we can make our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Very briefly, then we will jump into the presentation. It is the same one that we gave to both CB10 and CB12. So what we are doing this evening is giving that presentation, and we're here to get your feedback like we got the feedback from the other two community boards. And then at that time, we're going to look into what we've heard from the communities and all three community boards, and then we'll get back to you. That is the purpose of tonight, to get your feedback on our original plan. Thank you, and then I'll turn it over to Ben.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having us. As Keith mentioned, my name is Ben Schwed. I'm the project manager for the 7th and 8th Avenue project. Jeremy, can you go ahead and share the screen? No, I think we'll see. No, I can see it. Okay, great. Thank you. So Jeremy, I'll let you know when we're ready to go to, I'll just say next slide at the end. Great. So good evening and thank you for having us tonight. We're here to present our proposed safety improvements on 7th and 8th Avenue to Community Board 7 this evening and get your feedback. You can go to the next slide. Great. So specifically, this proposal for the safety improvement projects is on both 7th and 8th Avenues between 66th Street and 39th Street. 8th Avenue in particular is the commercial heart of Chinatown in Sunset Park, but 7th Avenue is also a busy stretch of Chinatown. The B70 bus currently runs on 8th Avenue, and 7th Avenue has existing two-way shared bike lanes, and that is the existing transportation infrastructure. Next slide. Great. So the reason that we're here proposing these safety improvements is to improve the safety of 7th and 8th Avenue. In our most recent Vision Zero plan, 8th Avenue was identified as a Vision Zero priority corridor. This means that it has some of the highest rates of pedestrians killed or severely injured of any street within Brooklyn. 7th Avenue has a very comparable crash and injury data within this portion of the street. These streets are also located within the Borough Park Senior Pedestrian Focus Area and a Vision Zero priority area, meaning that the project area suffers from a very high rate of pedestrian injuries and particularly senior pedestrian injuries. 8th Avenue is also a bike priority district due to its high rate of cyclist injuries, and the project area spans Community Boards 7, 10, and 12. However you break down the statistics, the reason that we're here is because a lot of people are getting injured on 7th and 8th Avenues. There's a history here with Community Board 7. In the past, Community Board 7 had asked DOT to investigate a study of whether converting 7th and 8th Avenue would be feasible in 2003 and 2015. Both times DOT said no to that proposal. However, now 8th Avenue has been identified as a Vision Zero priority corridor, and we have additional tools and project abilities that we can do, leading us to revisit these streets for safety improvements. Next slide. Thank you. So when we started looking at these streets, we wanted to understand how they were being used. And one of the first things that we see is that there's really the commercial heart of Chinatown, particularly 8th Avenue. And that means that it's really busy for everybody. For vehicles, there's lots of double parking, there's lots of loading and trucks making deliveries, and that frequently results in the lanes being blocked, vehicles having to go around across the double yellow into oncoming traffic, one lane for two directions of cars. And that leads to congestion and slow speeds and unsafe conditions. The B70 bus in the prime time goes less than 4 miles per hour on 8th Avenue, which is essentially a walking pace. For pedestrians, we see extremely high pedestrian volumes on narrow and blocked sidewalks with vendors and businesses. We see pedestrians spilling over into the street, crossing wherever they can because there's not enough space for pedestrians on the streets. And we see really high cyclist volumes as well. We see that 7th and 8th Avenue are a major connection for north-south riders in Sunset Park, both for commuter cyclists, recreational cyclists, and commercial cyclists. You can go to the next slide, thanks. In addition to the conditions, we also look intensely at the crashes and how people are getting injured on 7th and 8th Avenue. We see that people in vehicles are getting injured due to the congestion and the narrow streets. On 7th and 8th Avenue, side swipes and head-on collisions are 50% more frequent compared to the Brooklyn averages. And this makes sense. If you look at this top photo here, you can see a vehicle, a car and a bus trying to get by one lane of traffic as they go by double parked trucks. This congestion and breakdown are the conditions that lead to a lot of the vehicle injuries. When we look at how pedestrians are getting injured, we see that it's due to the breakdown in roadway function. The congestion and the breakdown leads to a lot of unpredictability at points of conflicts. Where vehicles and pedestrians are interacting at intersections, vehicles may be turning from or to the wrong side of the double yellow line and making unpredictable movements, as well as pedestrians making unpredictable movements because of the lack of space. And when this congestion and lack of space and lack of predictability comes together, it leads to unsafe conditions leading to pedestrian injuries. When we look at how cyclists are getting injured on these corridors, we see that it's due to the lack of dedicated bike infrastructure. We see that there's a high frequency of failure to yield right turn crashes, which happen when cyclists try to squeeze between moving vehicles and parked cars without enough space and visibility. And we also see a lot of mid-block crashes as cyclists have to go around the same double parked vehicles that cars do. Next slide. So in looking at these, in addition to the ways that people are getting injured, we want to contextualize the frequency that people are getting injured here. In our 5-year study period, there are more than 500 total injuries and 35 people killed or severely injured along 7th and 8th Avenue. Of these injuries, pedestrians and cyclists account for more than half of these total injuries and more than half of the severe injuries. We also see that children and seniors are disproportionately injured on these streets compared to Brooklyn averages. Children and seniors are our most vulnerable roadway users, and if the streets are not safe for them, they're not safe for anybody. We want to make sure that especially our children and seniors are safe when they're on 7th and 8th Avenue. And just lastly, to contextualize this, of all of the north-south streets in Community Boards 7, 10, and 12 between 39th Street and 66th Street, the stretch that we're looking at, 8th Avenue is tied for the highest number of pedestrians killed or severely injured with 3rd Avenue. 8th Avenue is a commercial street. It's a local street when there's a very concerningly high rate of pedestrian injuries on 8th Avenue. That's why we want to make it safer. Go to the next slide, please. Try that again. There we go. So going back to before COVID, DOT has been engaging with community members and this as much as possible to understand the concerns about safety and the ways that the streets function currently. Back in February of 2020, our street ambassadors team administered about 400 surveys in the neighborhood about safety and mobility in Sunset Park. From these surveys, the largest safety concerns that people expressed were vehicles that were speeding, vehicles not yielding to pedestrians, vehicles parking illegally, and the congestion and the traffic from the vehicles. About 80% of people who we spoke to said that the sidewalks were always too crowded. And when we asked about concerns with cyclists, the most frequently expressed issue was that cyclists were riding on the sidewalk. Next slide. Thank you. Of the 400 surveys that nearly 400 surveys that we administered to, about almost 90% of the people that we spoke to arrived to their destinations either on foot or public transportation. Just less than half of pedestrians and just more than half of cyclists say they feel unsafe walking and biking, respectively, on 7th and 8th Avenue. And again, these are neighborhood streets. These are local destinations that we want residents, people shopping, people walking, people who live here to feel safe when they're using their own streets. When we asked respondents for changes that they wanted to see, the most commonly expressed change that they wanted was transit improvements and improvements to the speed and reliability of the B70 bus. Go to the next slide. DOT's same street ambassador team surveyed businesses along 7th and 8th Avenue. The street ambassador team visited 340 businesses, again, before COVID, and spoke to merchants, whether it was the person who worked there, the owners, the managers, whoever was there, to understand about how they get deliveries, where delivery vehicles park, when the deliveries occur, and other patterns and issues with loading. The most commonly expressed issue was that businesses had trouble receiving their loading because there was a lack of dedicated curb space for delivery vehicles to access to the curb when they were making their deliveries. Go to the next slide. 1 second. So with that context, DOT started looking at what we could do to improve safety on these streets. We found that both of these streets are 44 feet wide, two-way streets with parking on both sides of the streets. As two-way streets, the treatments that we can potentially install to address safety are really limited. The types of treatments we have for these streets involve parking lane stripes, minor signal timing changes, and things like that to address speeding, which is not the root cause of many of the injuries we're seeing on 7th and 8th Avenue, and is also not a sufficient change to improve these streets that really need a comprehensive safety improvement. Next slide. In looking at potential improvements, there were also a lot of considerations about what we need to consider with a safety improvement. There's very heavy loading on these streets, particularly on 8th Avenue in the 50s, but really throughout these entire corridors. There are buses, both the B70 bus and charter buses run on 8th Avenue and currently stop every 400 to 700 feet, which is below the MTA's standard spacing guidelines. Though in recent census data, 2/3 of households in the local census don't own cars. We know it can be very challenging to park for residents or visitors to the neighborhood because of the density of residents and businesses. There are also extremely high numbers of pedestrians. In 1 hour at just one intersection, we counted more than 5,000 pedestrians. Those are numbers that we see in Midtown Manhattan, not in neighborhoods throughout Brooklyn. We also see really high cyclist volumes. In existing conditions, there are 600 to 800 daily cyclists that we counted in the fall of 2019. And we've seen citywide that cycling numbers have increased dramatically since the start of the COVID pandemic. There are also commuter vans that we observed at various locations along 8th Avenue. So all of these factors go into our consideration when we make our proposal. You know, the next slide, please. So the proposal for the streets is to make 7th and 8th Avenue a one-way pair of streets. 7th Avenue would be a southbound street from 39th Street to 65th Street, and 8th Avenue would be a northbound street from 65th Street to 39th Street. With these conversions, we're proposing to add a protected bike lane to each street, as well as adding additional pedestrian space and an aggressive curbside management plan to address the double parking. We're also proposing to add a contraflow bike lane on 66th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue for the bike lane connection. Next slide. So the reason that DOT believes that one-way conversions are the right solution here are because one-way conversions are a substantial corridor safety improvement that directly address the crash history of 7th and 8th Avenues. By eliminating two-way traffic on these streets, we would improve vehicle predictability, reduce the possible movements, and reduce conflicts between pedestrians, vehicles, and cyclists. With a one-way street, okay. With a one-way street, when vehicles double park, the vehicles won't have to go into oncoming traffic to get around them. At intersections, vehicles can either go straight or make one possible movement. Intersections and movements become fewer options and more predictable. And when you have a more predictable street, you have a safer street with fewer conflicts. One-way conversions also allow us to add additional elements to the street, such as the safe dedicated space for cyclists, as well as for pedestrians. These treatments can help improve conditions for cyclists and pedestrians, but also provide safety benefits for all roadway users by narrowing the street so that in the off-peak hours or in the less congested portions, speeding does not occur. One-way conversions lastly allow us to add in a signal progression. We can time signals so that vehicles traveling at 25 miles per hour or slower hit green lights so that they move efficiently but at a safe speed on these corridors. You know, the next slide. So the proposal has some details on about how we would use the curbside space that I'll go into now. So one of the features of this proposal is the expanded pedestrian space, and this is proposing a painted sidewalk extension on the west curb of 8th Avenue between 60th Street and 51st Street to give pedestrians more space and more mobility. We're also looking to add new loading and parking regulations to add commercial loading zones at key locations during peak delivery times. These loading zones these determinations were made through a comprehensive curbside study that involved time-lapse video, stakeholder conversations with select business owners, and our street ambassador merchant surveys. From a transit perspective, with these one-way conversions, we would be relocating the southbound B70 bus from 8th Avenue to 7th Avenue and consolidating bus stops in both directions. And lastly, for mobility for cyclists, we would be adding the curbside parking protected bike lanes. You go to the next slide, please. When often at DOT, when we talk about protected bike lanes, people think of them as improvements that only benefit cyclists. But we'd like to point out that protected bike lanes provide safety improvements for all roadway users. Where DOT has installed protected bike lanes and has full 3 years of after data, we've seen that there's a 15% drop in all injuries and an even larger decrease in pedestrian injuries. This is because protected bike lanes help to organize the street, reducing the conflict points between pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles, and shortening crossing distances for pedestrians.
Sir, you can leave the meeting then. You can leave the meeting. This is a.
那个社区的好朋友，你们可以站起来抗议，可是你们要让这个程序走完。你们可以站起来抗议，但是你要让他把话讲完 ，OK？ 后面的，你们要让，你们可以站起来，后面的社区的朋友们，你们可以抗议，你们可以站起来，可是你们先不要讲，你让他把讲完，你们就换你们抗议，你们可以站起来抗议，你们可以举牌子，但是麻烦大家不要发出声音，让他们讲完，你要做什么都可以，你可以站起来，你可以抗议，你可以用行动，可是你可以让他们把话讲完，你让他们把话讲完 ，OK？来，大家，社区委员会给你们5分钟抗议，你们尽管发泄，这5分钟让你们抗议，抗议完以后，麻烦让交通局的人继续把它讲完，他们完全了解社区的问题，你们5分钟让你们发泄 ，OK？
不是啊，他们也要知道我们社区的反应，不是光到他整天的狗屁都不是，讲了一大堆都是废话。OK， 我们听了100多遍了，不是第一次，对不对？我们的能量也是有限的，他们2个小时，我们也是2个小时，他们的时间重要，我们的时间就不值钱吗？不管什么几次来，我们都是社区防疫的，他一点都没有重视我们，对吧？有个事情我们社区怎么样防疫，他一定要跟着我们社区，不是说他光他只做这事情的。OK， 几次来，多少次了？ Yeah, that's not first time. You may story, every time same story. We don't want to waste our time, please. Okay? We don't want to waste our time. You have 2 hours, we send up 2 hours. Yeah? We don't want to listen same story. Come on. Every time you come in, you say same bullshit. We don't want to listen. Come on. Respect us. Come on. Respect the community. Come on. Okay. 让他们讲完，我们是要后退吧。走，叫他们门口走。大家 move， 大家走，对。Same bullshit. Oh, DOT have to respect the community. Come on. Same bullshit. We 们坚决反对到底。反对。我们不能坐着不理。对，我们不止5分钟，你们1个小时，我们1个小时，公平的 ，OK。Same bullshit. Some 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 bullshit.要尊重我们社区，对不对？DOT，你们必须尊重我们的社区，是你们要来听我们的。You come here, you have to listen to community, not everybody come here to listen to DOT. You make a mistake. You make a mistake. Okay, everybody. 我们先做完好不好？让他们先 finish. Okay, everybody. 做委员会去好不好 ？Yeah. Everybody 做委员会去，让他们。
Hey guys, have a seat. Let's finish this so I can ask my question.
Okay, so. Okay. Okay. So we are now, we've given you 5 minutes. Thank you so much. In a democracy, it's important to have this kind of thank you. Everyone sit down, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
我哋坐低先啦，坐低先。呢度係全部社區反對面嚟
Excellent.
啊。OK。
So this is the petition. Excellent. Thank you so much for bringing these. Thank you for your. Now we're going to continue the presentation. So I'm going to ask everyone to sit, and we're going to continue. Okay, you guys should continue. We should wrap this up so we can give people an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good. Okay. You want to go back to sharing the screen so we can keep going? Great. You can go to the next slide. We'll start from there. Great. So as we were saying, the protected bike lanes that we're proposing fit well into the existing bike network that's in this part of Brooklyn. In the southern end, they connect to the 7th Avenue South protected bike lane that DOT installed in 2019, as well as connections via Leif Erikson Park towards the water and Bay Ridge. They parallel, they're a main artery through Sunset Park, and then in the northern portion connect to the existing bike lane network, including the Fort Hamilton Parkway, newly installed protected bike lane, to Prospect Park and other points north in Brooklyn. Next slide. So what would this design look like? On this slide, you can see our kind of 3 main designs. And the top image here is our primary design, which shows which would be most of 7th and 8th Avenue. From left to right, showing your curbside protected bike lane, your wide floating parking lane, your travel lane, and then wide parking lane on the far side. The middle cross section here is our 2-lane design between 65th Street and 60th Street, where we have higher traffic volumes. The design is essentially the same. However, everything is narrowed down. Your parking lanes, your bike lanes, your buffer space is narrowed down so we can fit 2 travel lanes where we have higher volumes. And on the bottom, you see our pedestrian design. On 8th Avenue between 60th Street and 51st Street, we're proposing our 8-foot painted sidewalk extension adjacent to the bike lane, buffer space with physical delineation to make sure that people can go through even if someone is stopped, your travel lane, and then your wide parking lane stripe. Next slide. So another view, this is another view of what it would look like, kind of an overhead view taking a sample of 7th Avenue. On the bottom in the bright green, you can see the curbside protected bike lane. And then moving left to right, generally, you can see some features that would be part of this plan. We do have a protected intersections wherever feasible to ensure that vehicles making left turns across the bike lane and crosswalk turn slowly and yield to pedestrians. Elements such as channelization at intersections and at fire hydrants to ensure that turns and emergency vehicles are not impeded. And then elements like the protected intersection and our pedestrian refuge islands that shorten the crossing distances for pedestrians going across 7th and 8th Avenue by about half, so they're exposed for less time and crossing the street becomes safer. You can also note here we're showing a right turn bay and our mixing zone design, which will have at intersections with higher turn volumes to make sure that when vehicles are making turns, they're not blocking vehicles going straight through. Next slide. One of the things that we heard a lot was that people wanted the B70 bus to be faster and more reliable. And we've been working closely in coordination with the MTA on a plan to improve service for the B70 bus. As part of these one-way conversions, the southbound B70 bus would be rerouted to 7th Avenue. And in both directions, we would be improving the stop spacing by consolidating certain stops with low ridership to help speed up service so that the bus spends less time pulling into and out of stops, less time loading and unloading of passengers. And so the bus would stop about every 5 blocks as opposed to every 2 to 3 blocks. On this map below, you can see the stops that we're consolidating in red, the maintained stops in blue, and the new stops for the southbound route on 7th Avenue in green. Also, just to note, the busiest bus stop on the current route at 62nd Street, where there's the connection to the N train. At 7th Avenue and 62nd Street, we'd be adding a new traffic signal to ensure that that everyone transferring between the N train and the southbound B70 bus can continue to do that easily. Next slide. And the southern end of the portion of the, in the southern portion of the project on 65th, 6th, and 7th Street, just some other changes to mention. On 65th Street, we'd be adding an eastbound to northbound left turn bay at 8th Avenue to accommodate the higher left turn volumes. On 66th Street, we'd be adding a protected contraflow bike lane traveling eastbound from 7th Avenue to 8th Avenue to allow for connections for the northbound cyclists. And on 67th Street, we're proposing to add angled parking to the north side of the street adjacent to the park between 7th and 9th Avenues. Next slide. So just to quickly explain what that would look like on 66th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. This is part of the project to connect northbound cyclists from the existing protected bike path at 7th Avenue and 66th Street to our proposed northbound path at 8th Avenue. This design replaces what is angled parking adjacent to the park on the south side of the street and changes that parking to floating parking and puts a curbside eastbound bike lane. So your bikes would go eastbound for that 1 block, protected by parked vehicles, and the street would remain westbound. Next slide. Okay. When DOT installs protected bike lanes, our main focus is safety for all roadway users. And one of the things that the issues where this comes up the most is with turns. And so in order to make sure that we're reducing conflicts for all roadway users, and particularly between vehicles and cyclists, and ensure that people are moving safely and efficiently at intersections, at certain locations, we repurpose some parking near intersections to ensure that these movements happen safely. So in this left image, you can see our protected intersection design, and in the center image, our mixing zone design. These are the 2 treatments that we have for left turns across the bike lane. And in both of these cases, a couple of parking spots are repurposed to ensure that vehicles crossing the bike lane have a clear, unobstructed view of the bike lane and of the crosswalk before they make their turns, so that they can safely yield to cyclists and ensure that everyone goes safely. Also, in terms of mobility improvements with this project, and at certain intersections, we're proposing right turn bays, which also repurpose some parking spaces approaching those intersections. But those are important because we need to make sure that where we have these heavier turn locations, vehicles are getting out of the way of through moving vehicles and they don't block the lane. You go to the next slide. One of the big challenges with 7th and 8th Avenue is that there are a lot of trucks making deliveries at all times. And as part of this project, DOT is going to be installing loading zones along the corridors to accommodate the trucks and the deliveries. Where DOT installs loading zones, these are dedicated curb space for trucks and vans making deliveries at certain hours of the day so they can pull up to the curb to make their deliveries without blocking the travel lane. At all other hours outside of the specified ones, they remain parking for passenger vehicles. These loading zone determinations were made through our comprehensive study, including time-lapse video, surveys with businesses and stakeholder conversations. And the loading zones that we're proposing to install are a mixture of metered and unmetered loading zones as needed. Next slide. So this breaks down some of the proposed parking changes along the corridor. And our goals with this parking plan are to reduce truck double parking, providing dedicated loading space for the trucks, and increasing vehicle turnover in the busiest commercial areas. As you can see on this map, as shown in blue on the map, these are locations where we're proposing to add new metered parking spots. So spots that are not currently metered that we would be adding parking meters to around commercial corridors to improve passenger vehicle access and turnover near the commercial corridors. Shown in yellow here, where we're providing our new commercial loading zones in areas that are determined to need them. Where there are no hours shown, the default is 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. during the peak morning delivery hours. As you can see, there are a few other examples on 7th Avenue and on 45th Street where the hours are different due to the unique conditions. Lastly, in purple and green here, you can see where we're proposing our painted sidewalk extension in purple on 8th Avenue between 60th Street and 51st Street. And in green is where we're proposing our metered loading zones, which would require trucks to use meters for 1 hour when they make deliveries. As you can see, the hours for these change on the southern portion closer to 60th Street. We're proposing 12-hour metered loading zones from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And as you get further north in this portion, the hours reduce to 7 to 4 and 7 to 1 p.m. Going further north on the corridor. Next slide. Ultimately, these safety and mobility improvements require the repurposing of approximately 185 parking spots across the more than 3 miles of streets that are being impacted in total. And though we know that 185 parking spots is a lot, and we don't want to diminish that, it is just worth contextualizing that more than 90% of the total spots on 7th and 8th Avenue and the cross streets here will remain available after this project goes in. This table below just shows the breakdown and where this change in parking comes from, whether it's the protected bike lane, the sidewalk extension, the right turn lanes, bus stop changes, and the parking changes in the southern portion of the corridor. Next slide. So to summarize, to wrap up this presentation, we believe that these one-way conversions really directly address the crash history of these Vision Zero priority corridors through the street conversion and the design. They provide much needed pedestrian space, improving pedestrian safety and mobility in the heart of Chinatown, provide a safe direct connection for cyclists, improve the reliability of the B70 bus, improve loading conditions, reflect the needs and the concerns of the businesses and residents that we spoke to, and it aligns with citywide goals such as the Green Wave and the City Master Transportation Plan of expanding the protected bike lane network. So that's the presentation. You can stop sharing the screen and I'll turn it back over to you all to start the Q&A and the comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for getting through that. Okay. Yes, this might be the same presentation that's been made before, but this is the process that we go through. They presented to Community Board 12. They presented to Community Board 10, and now this is the Community Board 7 presentation. So and then we're going to get a chance to speak, and we're going to hear their feedback, and they're going to take that feedback, and they're going to go and they're going to look at their plan and use the feedback that we've given them. So now we'll begin the question and answer portion. We're going to start with a video presentation from our Assemblyman Peter Abate, and then we will take questions from board members, and then we'll take questions from the public.
刚刚他就是讲我们这个 presentation 今天现在告一个段落，那现在我们白彼得议员有录一段是给社区委员会、交通局还有给社区民众，他今天人没有办法出席，因为就是他有别的行程，他现在人不在国内，他现在人在乌克兰参加一个犹太大屠杀的周年的纪念的活动，所以他没有办法过来这里。那他今天录了一个影片，所以看完这个影片以后，他就会开放让社区委员会的委员提问，然后就会开放民众这边提问。OK。
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'll break it up and slow down so you can translate. So first, we're going to start with a presentation from Assemblyman Peter Abate. Okay, we're unable to get the audio to play live. It's only playing on Zoom, so we're gonna. So we've paused it, and we're gonna revisit that presentation, and we're gonna go to questions from board members. Anybody, Jimmy, like to start us off? Sure, Paul, you can.
As a chair of the Asian Affairs, I would like to give the opportunity to those that are on Zoom, and then we will speak after that. Anyone on Zoom from the board member?
So I have David Estrada. David, you could unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you. Hi. Pardon for my circumstance. I'm not in a well-lit place. I have a question to the Department of Transportation. First, is there anywhere else in New York City where an example of a very similar project has been completed, where people who are that interested could go and look and see and understand and talk to stores and just know what it's like to go through the proposed process? I'm not advocating or opposing the process. I just want to know if there's an example that we can look at.
Thank you. Well, probably the closest example would be Skillman Ave and 43rd Ave in Queens would be a similar cross section. But as far as a conversion, as well as the design that we're proposing, we don't have a precedent for that.
Thank you. And please, if this project were done, what is the total ballpark? What is the total dollar amount value? And could you describe also how long it would take and what disruption to business activities would be usual during this kind of construction project? Like, is this a 6-month thing, a 1-year thing? How long will businesses endure the construction process?
Well, with any construction, we would phase it. So it wouldn't be both streets converted at the exact same time. We would have multiple stages, and we estimate it would take about 3 months to implement, give or take. And at that time, we would be doing a lot of notifications. We would have work zone protections. We would be doing all that we can to make sure that the disruptions are minimized throughout. The dollar amount, I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't have an estimate for that right now.
Okay, and last question, thanks you, because then I'll be quiet. But there's a kind of elephant in the room here. Clearly, there's a vocal opposition that has to be listened to, and people want to understand, what the possibilities of this project are, what the risks are, and also what the what the consequences of keeping the current state of the design of the avenues would be. But I just want to hear from DOT. Perhaps this is more a commissioner question, Commissioner Bray. Can you address, please, the concerns of the community? Clearly, DOT has invested hundreds, if not thousands of hours of time studying this. I trust that you've done your homework. You've described the studies and the questionnaires and the field surveys. And yet time and again, you come to Community Board 7 and projects are met with a high level of skepticism and not for no reason. And I'd like to hear you express something to the people who are very opposed to this project that offers some kind of reassurance and assurance that you're listening. And would anything that happens in a meeting like this actually change the outcome? That I think that's the kernel of the conflict that's in the room, which is completely separate from street design and engineering and all those other technical questions. Can you speak to that topic in any way?
Yes. So as I stated earlier, we're here to hear from the community and the community board as being members of that community to get feedback on this project like we've done from the other 2 community boards that we presented to before. So whatever feedback we've heard, and we've gotten some both verbal and written feedback from CB10 now. We've heard from CB12. We're sure we're going to get a lot of feedback after this meeting tonight. We're going to take that feedback that we've received, and we're going to go internally and talk about what is possible, what's not possible, what we think about changing, what's not. We just don't know that right now. We just want to get all the feedback first, and then we will come back to everyone when that is done. But we are certainly listening to the community in various venues, including this one tonight, and it will have an impact on what we may or may not do moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I'm going to need to go mute and off camera, but I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
John DeLupa.
All right, thank you. So thanks for coming out here, and to the folks from DOT. I've been studying your previous presentations, watching this one. I appreciate you're in a tough spot. I know you're trying to improve the safety. With 500 people injured in 5 years, 3 neighbors dead in 10, and especially with all the injuries to the seniors, I know you're seeing something has to be done, and I'm glad you're thinking creatively to help keep us safe. I also appreciate that you're trying to focus on loading. So especially to get those goods to businesses. I saw that the 5,000 pedestrians an hour, and I also looked at the bus statistics, 8,500 people on the B70 bus, on the weekends, 7,000 each day. You're trying to get goods to businesses and people to businesses, which is a very worthy goal. Finally, I also wanted to say that I do appreciate that you're thinking of 7th Avenue, you're adding more transit and adding ways, by adding a stop. I saw outside Sunset Park, you can connect 8th Avenue to the park, which is great because it helps bring seniors and children. And as a driver, I also really appreciate that the one-way design makes it easier it reduces the worry of getting sideswiped and reduces the worry about hitting a cyclist. Finally, I do want to say with expanded sidewalks, as a parent pushing a stroller, that's huge. Do want to ask a couple questions on this though. My first is why contraflow bike lanes instead of a 2-way bike lane? I see more and more cyclists every day, especially after the pandemic, and I think that they really need to be accommodated, especially looking at some of the maps. There's as little as 4 feet of space. That's enough for about one cyclist. And wouldn't, especially with the buffered space, wouldn't having a two-way lane be a better way so that you can get people who are cycling to go up and down just as you can with the pedestrians in this model?
Thank you. So I think that's a good point. And I think to the point that Commissioner Bray raised earlier, that's the type of feedback that we can for sure consider and see if there are definitely challenges with two ways, not related to space, related to signal timing, things like that. But that's one of those things that we can look at and see if that is something that would make a possible change.
On a related note, I'm a very
sorry, John.
But I was going to say, on a related note, I'm a very frequent bus rider, and I studied the redesign, and I saw you talked about the spacing and 750 feet being the guidelines. I see it's 750 feet. There's also the distance between 8th and 7th Avenue. But at the same time, when you're moving around the spaces, it's going to feel like a huge loss, especially to the people who are seniors, who are parents, who are taking the bus. Is the DOT going to be including any pro-rider measures in this, like bus boarding islands so that bus stops are not blocked, or benches or shelters?
We don't currently have any of those features planned, but they're things we can look at with our partners at the MTA, see if things like that are feasible to incorporate.
And then finally, I just want to add one.
John, I need to ask you, we need to move on. I'm sorry. And we're going to go with a board member here that's in the room. Paul Mack, please. I'm going to ask board members as well. We're going to try to keep this to 2 minutes per person because there are a lot of people that want to speak tonight.
I am so sorry. I first of all have to apologize. I have been working on this project for the last 7 months, so I'm not going to shut up in 2 minutes. Should I shut up in 2 minutes? This is the first time ever that I'm able to talk to you face to face. Why, my God. All right, let me finish. I prepared myself for the last 7 months. Okay, first of all, I fully agree we have a problem on 7th and 8th Avenue, and we have been seeking for solutions. But however, instead of offering solution to us, basically you are giving us a lot more problem. I apologize again. My conversation is going to be long because I've been dealing with the DOT for the last 7 months. I had some good experience and I have some not that good that I would like to talk about it. Okay, back in March of this year, I was being recruited as one of the DOT Community Advisory Board member, among with 6 or 7 other Asians. After 2 more meetings, when you find out that we are not really for your proposal because all the packages that are coming with it. And what happened the next meeting? You pull in another 50 or 60 more members. All of a sudden, the Asian community, 7 of us became the minority of the minority. I don't know why you guys are doing that. I thought it wouldn't even happen in China, but why here in New York City? I'm not so sure. I am not so sure. I'm not so sure you are by the people, for the people, but as an agency head with the serving the New York City community. So I'm sure that if you are not by the people, at least you should be for the people. Okay, many things that you want to talk about. So I'm going to go point by point. You keep on talking about Sunset Park is becoming our top priority for the DOT. But the last time, at the CB12 meeting, actually, we noticed that 1 person passed away in the last 5 years. And 1 person is just too many. But however, 1 person passed away doesn't make Sunset Park the highest priority. I don't know how you come up with that. Okay, you talk about conducting community and business survey. Yes, I was there. I was with you guys. But however, when you came, you asked them what the problem might be. So they told the problems. But however, you never tell them your intention of taking away the parking spots by doing this and by doing that. You never mention that. And you just keep on telling people that you have done your homework. Okay, what you did was a couple years ago. And pandemic really changed everything. So this is really a new world. So don't you think that you should go back to the community, talk to the business people, explain to them your proposal, and see how they feel about it after the pandemic? What is happening with the pandemic to the Asian population? First of all, we are still recovering from the pandemic, health-wise or the business-wise. Secondly, we are still being hurt by the Asian hate crimes. You might not see that every day on TV, but it's really happening everywhere in New York City. Probably for some of you, Caucasians, you would never understand the situations that we are in. So the business people, they are not being able to recover. They are being targeted for hate crime. In the meantime, you come in and take away their what? You keep on talking about 183 parking spots. But however, you did not mention the hundreds of parking spots that you're going to take away and converting them into truck loading and unloading. And by doing so, you are taking away what? 300-400 parking spots? And that is just too much for our community. Don't you think so? Talking about parking. You are taking away 183 parkings. You are going to venture into the residential neighborhoods and install the meters. You are going to change the 2-hour meter into 1-hour meter. And what else? Taking hundreds of the parking spots and dedicating it as a truck loading and unloading. So we are losing a couple hundred spots altogether for 7 and 8. That is just too much for us. Christmas is coming. Delta is still really affecting us. When the winter comes, the business is not going to be as good as before. I don't know how good we are doing now. Probably not that good. So we really hope that you understand what we have been going through and hoping that you will sit down with us and really talk about it. We don't mind about the one way. We don't mind about the bike lane, but having to protect the bike lane 6 feet plus 8 feet for the car buffer and another 8 feet for the sidewalk expansion. I think that is totally unacceptable by our community, isn't it? 44 feet, you are taking away 22 feet. 6 feet for the bike lane, 8 feet for the car buffer, another 8 feet for the sidewalk expansion. How are we able to do that? Okay, so couple points I want to quickly cover. Okay, you're talking about the one-way traffic is definitely welcoming news to us. But however, 6 feet bike lane, 8 feet buffer, another 8 feet for the sidewalk expansion, that is just too much. And as a result of it, you are making 7 and 8 down only one travel lane. So whenever there are double parkings, whenever there are truck loading and unloading, that would be a problem. Of course, you can say that, all right, if people are double parking, the drivers can always get onto the car buffer, the buffer zone, the pass. But however, when I ask your staff, if you're eliminating 400 parking spots, how do you expect that people would not be double parking? And please understand, I know you have done a lot of studies. You see so many cars counting and going around. And the reason they are going around and around and around is because they are unable to find a parking spot. When I come to work, if I cannot find a parking spot in front of me, what I do, I just keep circling and circling until I get it. And however, I don't think I'm the only one coming to 8th Avenue to work. So when 10,000 people coming to work, look for parking, everyone's circling, and you think that we should take away their parking spots. I don't understand how that works. Okay, sidewalk expansion may be a good thing, but however, the reason it's so congested is because there are so many legal and illegal vendors. There are so many businesses that are putting out their merchandise. And what we are seeing is that those street vendors, especially food vendors, they bring out their table, their chairs in order to get their business. So how are you able to do that? I understand your staff has been telling me that they are talking to the local precincts to make sure that they do the enforcement. Please, for the first time, look into my eyes and tell me that the 7-2 precinct, the 6-6 precinct will be on 8W every single day to do the enforcement. Look into my eyes to see whether that is something. Please. Do you think they're going to do that every day? Do you think that's going to do everything? No. But when you want me? Okay. So it's not going to happen. You cannot eliminate double parking by taking away their parking spots. So that is not possible. And the same thing with the sidewalk expansion. What else? Bus stop. I think someone mentioned, we have a high percentage of the senior population, and by you making half of the bus stop to from removing it from 8 down to 7 down now. So, for example, on 53rd Street, there are 2 major senior housing development on 9 down and 53rd, 54th Street. How many people live there? Maybe over 200. And now, if they need to go to Bay, if they need to go to Bay Ridge for medical appointments, what they need to do? Walking from 9 down to 8 down to 7 down, and instead of having it on the average 2 blocks per bus stop, now you are making it like a 5 blocks. So someone who used to walking 1 block, now they have to walk 2 avenues plus a couple more blocks. So that is really problematic for a lot of people, and I don't understand why you think that is not going to happen. Again, double parking, I remember one time I mentioned about double parking, and this gentleman told me I should be telling you guys not to double park. But I explained to them the reason they are double parking, not that people get up, all right, let's go to 8 down and double park. People have a business that they need to conduct in the area. That's why they come in. That's why they look for a parking spot. That's why when they cannot get a parking spot, they keep on circling around. So therefore, you see so many cars. One last thing, a bike lane. You mentioned that you are on the street counting how many bikes that are moving per hour, whatever the case. But please understand, there are so many Chinese takeout places in the area, so many restaurants that are doing delivery. So if I were a delivery guy that are moving back and forth, then probably you count me 120 times in 1 hour. But in fact, I am just by myself. Okay, bike lane. If I am a delivery person, am I going? If I have to go, if I have to drop off the food in 3 blocks, do you expect me to ride my bike from 8th Avenue and then make a turn to 7th Avenue and then make a turn and back to the you think that's going to happen? If you think so, probably we are in a different world. Probably you guys are the expert, DOT. You should be knowing exactly what it is. And unfortunately, I understand that you have a mission that you want to achieve by the end of the year. But please understand, the Brooklyn Chinatown has been around for the last 30 somewhat years. And by you coming in, rushly making the conversion, taking away a couple hundred parking spots, in the meantime, expanding the sidewalk and doing all this, in the meantime, telling me that the local policing will be doing the enforcement for you. That is not possible. Why? Because when Asians were being attacked with the hate crime, we told the local policing how urgently we need them on 8 down and 7 down. They did show up for 2 days. I understand because, they are lacking on manpower, so they just respond to whatever the emergency situation would be. So again, telling everybody that you are working with the police, that you'll be doing the enforcement, that is just not possible. The reason I'm saying that I have been on 8th Avenue for 34 years. I know exactly what it works. So can we bring in the partitions? So in response to your proposal, in about 2 weeks, we collected over 20,000 partitions. What did we do? We dropped it off to the DOT headquarters. What were we told? That someone will contact us and sit down and understand our concern and see if we are able to compromise. Did that ever happen? I don't think so. So our 20,000, this is a copy of the 20,000. 20,000, it took us a couple days to make the copy of 20,000 copies. We drop it off to the DOT headquarters. We're being ignored. Nothing happened. So I am just hoping that you would really understand our situation. Not that we are being aggressive. We understand where you're coming from. But however, please, you have to also understand us. With all the struggles that we have been facing, we really need the support of the city to really make through the pandemic, the hate crime, the recovery from the pandemic. But unfortunately, by doing so, taking away, and the reason they are so aggressive because they are afraid that you are going to start the project next Tuesday. We are so afraid. People want to stop you, and I told them you are so stupid because they will start the project at 3 a.m. in the morning. No way that you are able to stop them. Maybe for the first day, not the second or third. So I am, excuse me, I may sound yelling or whatever, but please understand my frustration. Please understand the frustration of my people. The reason they are so aggressive because their livelihood is really depends on the 7th and 8th Avenue. And by taking away the parking spots, by installing bike lane, by taking away another 8 feet for the car buffer, by expanding the sidewalk for another 8 feet, by creating a two-lane traffic merging into one on 60th Street and 8th Avenue, creating the bottlenecking. I don't think you are doing us a favor. Again, we are not against DOT. We are not against the one-way. We love the one-way. You want the bike lane? Let's talk about shared bike lane. You want to protect the bike lane? 8th Avenue might not be the best spot. How about 9th Avenue? You want the solution? We can have simple solution. I am sure that if we remove the bus to from 8th Avenue, definitely we are able to have a much smoother traffic. No, when I'm talking, I want you guys to listen because I devote my last 7 months for this opportunity to talk to them.
Thank you, Paul.
After this, it's not going to happen.
Thank you.
So do I just make a statement or am I expecting some response from them?
It feels like a statement to me.
So I don't get no response. So why am I here?
Stop yelling.
Come on. So I call. I don't care if you say, I don't care if you fire me from community board. I don't care. So am I expecting some response on them or no?
We have the local president. We have the community.
Okay.
So as I said before, we came to the community boards to listen to feedback from the community, and we're going to take that back. The one thing, and everything you said, the one thing I want to directly respond to though, you said you were afraid that we're going to start next week on a project and not telling about. There's no plans to start this project. But that's not happening. So I don't know where that came from or where that rumor is. That's not true.
So can you tell us, are you going to give us some time so we can sit down and talk? Again, no problem. Bike lane, make it a shared bike lane or make it 9th Avenue. You want to take away parking? No problem. Go down to 5th Avenue, take away all their parking spots. We don't care.
That's part of the feedback that we're taking from you. Everything you're saying and what we're going to hear from other people tonight, we'll get back to you. And I'm pretty sure just like the other two community boards, we're going to obviously get a written response from CB7 as well, like we already have from 10 and 12. So we're going to get a lot of feedback, and then we're going to respond after all of that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're going to call up someone from the community because we're going to mix it up because this is taking a long time. We're going to call Nelson Leung. Thank you, Nelson.
Hi, I'm Nelson. Okay. I living in 8th Avenue area from 1983 to now is a 38 year. Start from I'm 13 years old. I'm in this community. Okay, because now I heard DOT they need to change 8th Avenue to one way and 7th Avenue one way. So I feel it's a good for change one way. But when I saw their plan, and then this one is a big problem. Okay, they changed 8th Avenue from the 60th Street to 51st Street is a one travel line. And this one big problem because in a Sunday, I stay on a 60th Street and 8th Avenue corner. I count how many cars pass by 8th Avenue and turn into from north, south 400 Parkway, from west 65th Street and north 6th Avenue, turn to 8th Avenue. Okay. 1 hour is a 385 car. Okay, if from two-way, because both side, all three sides are two travel line, they turn to one travel line, will make a big jam. Okay, I'm sure will be big jam from the 8th Avenue to 400 Parkway, from 8th Avenue all the way to BQE exit. Okay, and all the way to 65th Street. So this one is, I'm sure, okay, is a heavy traffic. This number one, they make mistake. It's a very bad design. Number two, they say they take over 183 parking spot. Okay, but they can't, the parking spot, they have an extra 35 parking spot on 66th Street, but I don't count on 66th Street. I live on 56th Street. So totally on 60th Street to 51st Street, they totally lost a 273 parking spot. I live over there. But every time I go home, if I'm lucky, I take half hour to find parking spot. Sometimes I take more than 1 hour or 2 hours. I park my car to 4th Avenue. Okay, and then work to 8th Avenue. I take a 4 long block, go home. Okay, this one is a lot fair for me. And then you take out 273 parking spot. And also on 8th Avenue, 60th Street to 51st Street, you have a loading zone area for meter. But the other side is a low parking. This one is a big problem. Okay. If you take off a lot of parking spot, what they can do when they drive the car to 8th Avenue, turn around and make heavy traffic. They don't know why 8th Avenue have a heavy traffic, but everybody looking for the parking spot. This one, number two problem. Number three problem is that the bicycle lane. Okay, I'm stay in the corner on 60th Street and 8th Avenue 1 hour. I just saw one wheel bicycle, okay, pass by 8th Avenue. The other bicycle is an electric bike. They drive the bike is more faster than 25 miles per hour. Okay, this one is a very dangerous. Why they don't control electric bike? Okay, and then they make a 6-foot bicycle lane just for 1 hour for one bike. Okay, this one is a lot make sense. Okay, they need to think about that. And the other problem is a 7th Avenue one way. Okay, from the 39th Street to 65th Street. On 65th Street, they just put a new sign for low left turn 1 year ago. Okay, so everybody, if they want to get off 8th Avenue, they cannot left turn. Okay, only a right turn or go straight. If I go straight, will be go to a service road on BQE. If they want to go to a Daika area, they only turn left on 70th Street and then turn left again and turn right on 69th Street. Every time I drive the car pass by this location, I need to wailing the car the other side pass, and then no car, and then I make left turn. Every traffic light only turn 3 to 4 car. If I push all the car go to this location, and then make heavy traffic on this area. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you guys answer about, I know, about parking. And maybe can, there's lots of questions about the parking. So if you, maybe you can address the parking and also the left turn on. Right. Okay, what about the left turn from onto 65th Street from 7th Avenue?
Would be that southbound left turn at 7th Avenue and 65th Street, we would be permitted in this proposal. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Lee. I'm the Immigration Committee Chair at CB7. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I'm pretty sure, you have learned a lot from Paul Mac's, very honest opinion from the community. And I just want to add that during the summer and throughout the summer, I accompanied Mr. Malgo and then and visit business around 8th Avenue and 7th Avenue, right? And to the people that you interview in your 2020 outreach study, all of them, not even one, supported your plan. Everyone say, yes, there is problem on 7th and 8th Avenue, but DOT's plan, we are not endorsing it. And all the residents, you saw like we have over 20,000 petitions. No one supported this plan. I think you had to listen to the community, right? How this plan was drafted is you don't have community input, right? And definitely like for a lot of problems that we mentioned, like this plan will be really bad for the seniors, right? So instead of spending like you will cut like B70, right, from every 2 blocks to every 5 blocks, and then from 8 and 7, right? So for people living on 9th Avenue, they had to go all the way to 7, and then that would take a long time. And especially for those mobility impaired seniors, it might be a lot for us, it will be a lot for them. So it's really, you're not taking that consideration. So, and definitely a lot of time, since this pandemic, a lot has happened to Asian American community, right? So particularly the immigrant community, a lot of anti-Asian hate and the things. And one thing we want to ask ourselves, right? What does city do to help the community, right? In California, they devoted over $156 million to help the community to recover and to combat anti-Asian hate. New York, as the most progressive state, what happened to all this help that we need, right? Our small business need help from the city and the state to recover from this pandemic. But what have we done, right? So a lot of times when we make plans, we hope the city leadership also go into the community and listen to the people who live there. Because you cannot make a plan sitting in a mansion and then make up a plan, right? Because you don't live in Sunset Park. You don't know what people need. To understand what people need, you have to go to the community and listen to people's voice. And particularly the immigrant community, a lot of times receive very little attention from mainstream media. You see how much media coverage when West 4, one of the park in West 4 was occupied, right? Massive coverage. Do you see any media coverage tonight besides the local Chinese media? We don't see New York One. We don't see New York Post, nothing. So this city is not treating everybody equally. We know that. We have to acknowledge that. So we want you to bring back to the city leadership, do better. If you want to make some changes, listen to the voice of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. We're going to take a question from a board member on the Zoom. We'll go with Victor Swinton.
Thanks, Zach. I know we talked about the parking in New York, in New York, in Sunset, and I know it's scarce. I just wanted to know, and DOT, thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to know with the delivery truck times that you're looking to set up, the delivery truck locations, is the number of parking spaces that are going to be eliminated included in that 183, or is there going to be more parking space eliminated due to the delivery trucks? Thank you.
Yep. So during the hours of the loading zones, when they're for trucks, those are restricted to trucks, deliveries, vans making deliveries. Outside of all of those hours, those spots remain available for personal vehicles and things like that, and normal vehicles. So those spots are not eliminated spots because they're just for certain hours, they have restrictions to allow for deliveries.
Like just to follow up on that, during those hours, how many parking spots will be eliminated to the general public?
I'm not sure of that number offhand. We could, and it's it may be, it's flexible. We might be changing it, but I don't know that number. It varies on sites. Some places, there's the map that you can refer to specifically. Some of the zones were 7 to 10. Some of them had unique hours. Some of them were longer depending on the blocks. That's on one of the slides that will be posted tomorrow to the website if you want it, and you have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Victor. All right, we're going to go with Shu Cam Leung. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sel Cam Long. I'm the BCA board member also. I have a store in 8th Avenue. I live in 8th Avenue more than 35 years. I know the history of the 8th Avenue, and we are so hard to build this community. We love it. We want 8th Avenue to become a peace, nice, clean area. Today I have two questions. One, why so important the project, one-way traffic project? Never put on newspaper. Never let community board know. We have 11, we have 7, 12, 10 community. Nobody know why. And also why we don't put this news on newspaper. In Chinese newspaper, American newspaper, let us know. And also let the main Chinese association people know. Why do that? Please answer me. One. And second question is, I love drive bicycle. Bicycle is a good exercise. But why so important? Why you pick 8th Avenue and go through the bicycle line? It's very dangerous. It's no good for the driver, no good for the people. We have so many people you can pick. Why 8th Avenue? I have two questions. Please answer.
So to the first question, again, we had this meeting tonight and we've had the meeting with other community boards. We've actually had other meetings to talk about this project. And so we have listened to people. Again, we're just presenting the same plan, like we said earlier, but we have presented this before. The media question, we post projects on our website. We do it on multiple languages. And so we can definitely have this translated to other languages. I don't think we give presentations directly to newspapers per se. They usually just get it from our website and a link and they just refer to an article, but we are not hiding it. We put it out in the public.
And to the second question of why 8th Avenue, you identified it yourself. It's a very dangerous street. And so we see that bike lanes, as well as all of these treatments, allow us to redesign the street in a way that makes it safer and provides mobility improvements for everybody using the street. So that's why the focus on 8th Avenue, because that's where people are getting injured and severely injured currently.
Every street in New York City is dangerous. It's just, I wouldn't say the streets on 8th Avenue is dangerous. There are problems. Yes, we acknowledge that, not dangerous. Sorry.
And I'll just add, we have just to point out, we do have the safety data. As I mentioned in the presentation, 8th Avenue is one of the most dangerous streets in Brooklyn for pedestrians.
Excuse me.
Okay,
I have a question.
I
I have a question just regarding this.
excuse
His
me.
meaning.
Why would you like to
that-
ask a question now? You have the floor.
Okay. I think his meaning danger is a electrical bike, not the regular bike. The electrical bike, and they just ride that very, very dangerous because they and kill people, you know, and they are riding very fast. When you are driving a car and you cannot predict that someone just boom next to you, you can hit them and they can hit the pedestrian. That's his meaning. Thank you.
So I have a question. You say this plan is to save our community, right? You know, when we walk the 8th Avenue, we don't have space to walk. We need you know why? Do you walk to 8th Avenue sometime? We don't have space to walk in the 8th Avenue when we go shopping. But last time I asked you, DOT, how about the illegal vendor? Yeah, illegal vendor. If you don't fix that, and put in the bike lane, and we still have space to walk, it's get more dangerous. Can you answer the question?
So, and I will just, to the gentleman's question first, I'm getting to you. For e-bikes, we are aware of the issue, of course. And so we are actually going to be working with a task force with the NYPD on them. We're going to have an education campaign. What's legal, what's not. Not every e-bike out there is actually legal. A lot of them are not. And we're going to try to deal with that issue. So, and there's going to be more announcements on that pretty soon. As far as your question on vendors, DOT doesn't really have a jurisdiction over vendors. The main thing we have is that you have to have a clear space, ADA clear space on sidewalk, but that's all that DOT has for vendors. So mainly vendors, I know it was mentioned earlier, NYPD, but actually the city council passed a bill. It's actually now with the Department of City Consumer Affairs and Worker Protection. So they're actually going to be doing enforcement on vendors. So we'd have to talk to them probably about that.
Okay, we'll take a question from the floor. James Zhang. James Zhang. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Zhang. I'm standing here to ask you, DOT, your plan is completely wrong. Start the plan. Okay, start wasting our taxpayers' money. You keep saying you need our feedback, but your plan never changed from the beginning. Either listen to our community, listen to our voice, or all of you should be fired. We need the right people to work on this. Start the plan. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, Kenny Guan, question?
Yeah, Kenny Guan, Commute Bus 7 board member. I have two questions for DOT. On your proposal, you have 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue, one travel lane for the proposal. Can you explain why is one travel lane?
So as part of this proposal, we've collected extensive traffic counts of how many vehicles are using 7th and 8th Avenue, including origin destination to see where they're coming from, where they're going to. And our analysis shows that the amount of vehicles that are on these streets can be managed with one travel lane. There's portions where you see we have two travel lanes, like down by 60th to 65th Street, because we see that the volumes are heavier there. But we are modeling, which was done very conservatively, to include every vehicle that's currently on those streets, staying on those streets. One of the things that we see when we do this analysis is that it's very congested. It moves very slowly, but that's because of the conditions of the street, not as much the number of vehicles that are driving on it at all times. So we believe that through our modeling, one travel lane can accommodate the
Okay,
vehicles.
okay, Ben, because I gotta oppose what you're saying, because one travel link to reduce traffic and cost, that's not gonna resolve the problem. And number one, when you have one travel lane on the avenue, 7th Avenue, what if any senior or kids or someone got hurt? The emergency vehicle, how they get through? So that the 8th Avenue and 7th is whole gonna be stopped and jump. And also someone got killed over there because the emergency vehicle cannot get through. So this is not gonna work for 8th Avenue, all right, period. And my another question to you, if you can answer that later, but I have another question for you. For 60th Street all the way to 51st Street, 8th Avenue, would 8 feet or 10 feet pedestrian area. So can you answer that for me? 60th Street all the way to 51st Street. It was the purpose of it. Yeah.
So the reason we're proposing the sidewalk expansion is because we see that the vast majority of users on 8th Avenue are pedestrians, and the sidewalks are not wide enough to accommodate them. As we mentioned in the proposal, more than 5,000 pedestrians in 1 hour at just one intersection. And so the purpose is to give these thousands of pedestrians enough space to move and walk safely and comfortably, whether they're going home, whether they're going to businesses, whether they're just walking out for a stroll. That's the purpose.
Okay, Ben, I would tell you that proposal is totally wrong. And I'm gonna tell you why you have that pedestrian for 10 block. It's only create more problem, I'm telling you. Because I'm from the neighborhood, I'm living here 32 years. Illegal vendors been driving everybody crazy, because the lady, Nicole, she also mentioned, because they cannot even walk from the sidewalk because the illegal vendors blocking all the block. Okay, this is the issue for law enforcement. But when you create a pedestrian walking area for 10 blocks, everybody love to come to 8th Avenue, not us, the illegal vendors. So you even create more problem for the community, right? More problem for the community, not resolve the problems. That's my point.
Thank you, Kenny. Okay, I'm going to call on Katie Welsh. Thank you. Katie Welsh on Zoom.
I think we need some translation for the people.
Thank you. You can hear me okay?
Katie.
Yeah, great. Oh, is it okay to start, Zach?
Hold on one sec. We're going to do a
Oh,
little
sure. Okay.
then come here.
OK， 刚刚呢，DOT 呢能回答 Kenny 的一个问题，就是2条线8大道变成1条线，他的分析下说这样是没问题的，这样这个交通非常通顺。你们觉得这种可能吗？2条线变1条线了。
Okay, Katie, thank you for waiting.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So I just wanted to, say and state, right, and like just the DOT didn't come to any of the affected community boards until the agency lost a lawsuit by local residents, which was saying that DOT was skirting the mandated community review process. So you are coming to us now after losing a lawsuit. So let's talk about the lack of and the failure of leadership. And DOT, there has been a failure of leadership at the highest level. And we see that both by the current leadership that we're looking at DOT, and we are seeing this when it comes to every meeting where we have asked for different engagement and priority issues. 3rd Avenue is a major traffic safety corridor, and we've had multiple accidents, and there's a lack of leadership from DOT on doing anything. We've asked for various transportation and last mile studies. DOT doesn't work with our elected officials; they haven't. And so again, this has been a failure of leadership from this agency. And so we expect more, and we deserve. This community deserves more with this new administration. And the new administration is January of 22. So this is my question. If you don't get approval for this in the next 2.5 months, which is the end of your terms, and for some of the folks here, your political appointments in this current administration, if you don't get approval by the end of December, what happens to this project?
So despite the basis of the question, all I can say is, again, we are reviewing feedback we've got, just as I said before, and we're going to take it back and see what our thoughts are on everything we've heard, including tonight and many meetings before, and then we will get back to everybody on our future course of action. That's not been determined. There's no timeline on it so far.
So there's a new administration in January 22. Does the new administration have any bearing on this proposal?
I can't speak for any administration one way or the other. I can just say for DOT, we'll listen to the community, and then we'll get back to you with the feedback that we received to you after tonight.
Okay, and the meetings that were hosted with the community were the meetings that you all chose to have with the community and not the community review process. So just for the record, that was after the lawsuit. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call on Ray Huang from the floor. Ray Huang. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing.
So he's not here now, but he asked me to present.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Lynn. All right. I've been working with DOT. I know that you guys did the lane project in Flushing, and I know that you did a survey in Flushing. Just look at the survey. How many vendors? I don't know. The local business, I asked them, 100%, nobody likes your project. And you're saying the lane project is for the safety purpose. I don't know what kind of safety purpose. You know that there are certain areas you cannot drive. And when you're driving in the intersection, you're hesitating. Am I going through straight or am I making turn? I'm stopping in the middle of the intersection. And the people behind me, the drivers, they're honking horns against me. What am I going to do? Am I making a right choice under certain stances? Like when they're honking the horn against me, I'm like, am I going straight? I don't know. So I'm just going anywhere that are possible. I may hit somebody. I may make a wrong turn. What am I going to do? That's totally wrong. And when you are making when you choose to have a bike lane, just go out there and check it for yourself. How many bikers are driving? They're riding on the sidewalk. Just look, they're still concerning hitting somebody or being hit by cars. When you're having a bike lane, you are just eliminating them. Like you're setting a free pass for them. They just keep going faster, even faster, not slowing them. It's not a safety. You are not creating any safety environment. All right, you're making things worse because when they can drive faster, it's not a safety you are creating. You're creating the mess. And how many times I've been driving and making turn, they almost bump into my side door. You call that a safety? No, it's not. I hear that they try to slow down, but the speed they cannot. They can't stop. They almost hit. They almost hit my car. Imagine if I'm not driving, if I'm walking, what am I gonna do? They just hit me. All right, thank you.
My name is Tony Fong. I'm a Board 7 member. Respond to this gentleman and the lady next to me. DOT mentioned about safety. You come here to give us safety. Right? You mentioned about safe. But may I ask you, do you put up any program for the issue? Did you have any educational program for the community? Do you have any educational program for the school to teach our kids? Safety issue is important. You mentioned that. But do you put into that? Even though it is an issue of education, but did you put in your effort to educate the community?
Yeah,
Same.
DOT does have a safety education division.
I don't see it in the community.
Okay, well, we can have
should
that,
have
we
to put it
can
in
tell them to
some
come
platform.
visit whatever groups you think is appropriate. Yeah.
Besides, people mention about the 65th Street junction as 8th Avenue and 7th Avenue. But let me put up also some other issue that you can look into this corner. 6th Avenue, same. Okay, but 6th Avenue do have the space for the bike lane. But why you put the bike lane on 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue, which is a business area? Is there any sightseeing that people can enjoy? There's none. I don't think so. But why don't you look at the 9th Avenue? 6th Avenue and 9th Avenue. You want to put a bike lane, I think 6 and 9 is better. They don't have so much traffic, and the sightseeing may be good for the bicyclists to enjoy. You put a bike lane on the wrong area. That's what I want to point out. And besides 64th Street at 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, and 6th Avenue, they also jam-packed it. Drive over it, try to go from 6th Avenue through 64th Street down to 9th Avenue. I think you will have to spend half hour to get through that. All right, so this is the thing you have to look at. Other area, many of us mentioned it to you already, so I don't have to mention. And the last one I want to say, a good city officer or worker should think about the expansion and achievement of the community, not just put in any plan that you planned for. Please look into that issue also. Otherwise, you bear the responsibility by hurting the community.
Thank you. I would like to call on a representative from Nidia Velasquez's office, Lingzia Ye. I'm sorry, can't see.
Good evening. Thank you for for bringing this presentation to the community, and thank you for letting me speak. First and foremost, I would like to stress Congresswoman Nidia Velasquez's position. I mean, she doesn't have a position on this, but her position is always, we got to protect the rights and the livelihood of vulnerable communities, especially, vulnerable communities who may not have a lot of say. And then whenever change is to happen to a community, the stakeholder must be consulted before changes are applied to them. And then with that said, I have a few questions for DOT and Commissioner Bray. First is, when you mentioned that you did 391 surveys with community residents about their traffic concerns, in the survey, were residents asked only about their concerns of the traffic, or were they consulted for their opinion on how changes should be? So the question is, before you go and propose this plan, were community members and businesses consulted on how they would like the change to be?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. When our street ambassadors did their surveys with both the residents as well as with businesses, we didn't have a plan at that time. So our surveys, our questions were about their concerns, their issues, their current experiences and challenges with 7th and 8th Avenue. That was the purpose of those surveys. We didn't have a plan to get feedback on when we did those surveys.
I see. So when you fast forward, when you do have the plan to change the traffic, did you go back to the community to ask for their input on how they would like the change to be?
That's what we're here tonight doing. That's what we're doing with the other community boards and with our public info meetings as well. We're getting feedback on the plan.
So are you here so the community members that are here speaking tonight, they are being consulted, their opinion is going to count in your plan. They're not being merely informed of your plan because you already have a plan that you're presenting. Are you going to change? Is this plan available for change based on community members' input?
So we presented a plan tonight, as we've done to 3 community boards and actually in other forums. And we are listening to the community in all those forums. We're going to take back feedback and get back to everyone for probably, I'm sure, an iterative process after that on what some thoughts are. But we're right now taking feedback, and then we'll get back to people.
So the plan that you presented tonight is not final?
Is currently not final, no.
Okay, and second question, when the plan that, this preliminary plan that you presented contains some sweeping changes that could have a huge impact on the community and the resident. Has DOT done a impact study on how this could impact the local businesses and the local residents? Personally, I'd sometimes drive to 8th Avenue, but I'm more than happy not to drive and take the public transportation to visit if this will save some lives. This could reduce traffic accidents. But our concern is for the residents. We all know that 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, the extended Sunset Park community, there are many residents there that are migrant laborers. Many of them work work in the livery industry. They work for deliveries. Their livelihood depends on being able to drive their car around to make a delivery for Amazon, for Instacart, to drive Uber. And the elimination of parking, how would the elimination of parking spots affect them? Has an impact study done on that? Has an impact study been done on the elimination of parking spots? We're talking about hundreds of parking spots because a lot of the meter spots at night, the worker who return home could use those meter spots when it's free to park their cars, and then during the day they take it and then do their delivery. Has there been any impact study on how those people could be impacted? Could families and workers be displaced from the loss of parking spots?
I'm not sure we have the access to that data to make a determination on the anonymous parking on the street and what the impacts to the whole community would be, but we can look into some more information about that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take another question from the floor from Chen Hua. Chen Hua.
谢谢阿玲姐帮我翻译。尊敬的社区委员会的人，讨厌的 DOT， 这些人 ，OK， 先帮我翻译。
切入重点。
先说这几句，先说这几句。
老外不懂这个，直接讲。
不管这个 ，OK。请问今天看到反对的人吗？
Have you DOT for DOT agency? Have you seen people who are oppose this proposal?
举手。
Have you see it?
谁反对的
See it. Okay.
Yeah.
好，他们看到了。
OK。这么多人反对，说明这个提案很不合理。
You see those hands and people, the protest. That means your proposal is unreasonable.
那你们这么多场的现场会下来，为什么还要坚持呢？为什么还要坚持这个错误的做法？
After those meetings at the community board over and over again at board 10, board 7, board 12, why you still insist this plan?
是否你们后面隐藏着巨大的利益输送？
Is there any interest behind this proposal?
OK， 每一个行政的违规后面都藏着巨大的利益。
Any administrative proposal like this, meaning must be some backdoor deal and interest not for the community but for yourself.
你们交通局长住着400多万的豪宅 ，OK， 400多万的豪宅不是开玩笑的。
Your commissioner, Commissioner Hanks, his apartment is over $4 million.
是不是要换成4000多万的？
切入重点。
Yeah， 这个也是重点。
Is he gonna change to a 40 million house?
OK，
tell him to speed up.
OK， 你们只是帮宣而已，你们是帮手。
You guys are helping him.
OK， 我希望你们哪一天跟你们的局长去一下7大道跟8大道，你们说你们是 DOT 的，看看有什么反应。我们7跟8大道的民众非常欢迎你们。
So for real, for serious talking, he would like to invite you and the Commissioner Hanks and all the DOT agents who are involved in this program, walk around 8th Avenue, walk around 7th Avenue, look at the people and talk to the people. They will welcome you. They will tell you what they really feel. But the thing is, you guys need to come over and see how people live there.
我们欢不欢迎？
They truly welcome you.
OK， 去现场看一看。才知道你们做的是对的或者错的。还有一个规则，什么？这个是对全世界人都通用的。做了亏心事，总有一天要还的。人啊，做事情摸摸自己的良心，这一条全世界人都通用的。OK， 送给你们 DOT。
In short, there's always karma. There's karma. So if you do something not for the people, karma will get you. In short, okay, karma.
Okay. We're going to try Assemblyman Abate's address again. I think we might have figured out what the issue was. She will.
No. No. I can't get it. Can you You stepped away. Why don't you call the next person?
Okay, we'll have that read in a second. We're gonna go with Nick Azadian.
Thank you. While I thank the DOT for their presentation, I find this to just follow a continuous pattern in this district of utter and complete disregard for the people that live in this district for the needs that they actually require. It appears that no matter what happens, the DOT follows their own plan, whatever that is, and then only decides to come to meetings when they're sued. Specific to this, I don't know why you feel that it's necessary to keep doing this. We've had numerous issues with this board and the DOT in getting information that we have requested and that is needed for the quote unquote improvements that you intend and plan to make to this district. And it is a disservice to everyone who lives here. Now, Commissioner Bray, I would imagine you know who Robert Moses is. Now, I don't know if you're styling yourself after him, but you are starting to portray yourself as him to a vast number of people in this district due to the actions of your department. Just as Robert Moses did to this neighborhood many, many years ago by subdividing it, you essentially are trying to do this again without seeking any kind of community input. And I hope that you take this to heart for the other issues that are also available or present in this district that need attention and need response from your agency, and to heed the voices of the people who live here. So with that, I ask, do you actually intend to listen to the people and modify your plan? Or like everything else that your agency has done here, disregard it and still do whatever the agency decides that thinks it's best for the people that live here?
Field that one because Commissioner Bray was away from the, he's back now, but he missed the question. As we had said before, we're taking that input from all the community boards, and we're going to come back to the community with proposals after we process all this information from all the boards.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to call on from the floor, Katie Chow.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Katie. I'm the program director of BCA Senior Center. I would like to, on behalf of our seniors, I would like to express their anger for that proposal because they need to take the bus to our center every day. According to the plan, those members who live in 9th Avenue have to walk 2 more blocks uphill to 7th Avenue for the bus. Those who live along 8th Avenue have to walk 5 or 6 more blocks for the B70 because the proposed reduction of the buses stops along 8th Avenue. They are 70, 80, some are even 90 years old. Most of them have health problems, and they need to walk with their canes, walkers, even on wheelchairs. So this plan, I think they will never think about the seniors' needs. So we all, on behalf of our members, they're all against this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Please, you can read. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the assemblyman body's video, there's an audio issue, so I'll just basic recap. I believe you already heard Assemblyman Abadi many times, so you know his standing, you know his points, and the community heard from him many times. We heard from them also for in the past 6 months. We've been dealing with this. So here's just a few points. I do not need to go into detail, but you already heard that. Safety. You mentioned the safety, but when you put the bike lane on 8th Avenue, our seniors and children are gonna walk on it because the sidewalk issue is not resolved. So people has no choice but walk on the bike lane. So people will get hurt, either the senior, the younger children, the younger mom with the stroller, or the cyclist. People will get hurt. So the safety really need to take into consideration. Second is the bottleneck, the one travel lane. You already heard. The 65th to 60 gonna turn into the one travel lane. What if there's an emergency cars, vehicles over there, fire trucks and the police car, who goes first? They're gonna get stuck. And second, the 7th Avenue, 51st Street, there's the EMS. We really wonder, have you reached out to them? What do they say? The EMS, did they respond? The third one, the MTA, the bus stop. Katie just say, on behalf of her seniors, people who live on 9th Avenue, 53rd Street, now they need to southbound, they need to take the bus 2 Avenue away 3 streets away to go down to 7th Avenue without ADA access to the MTA. They need to walk back to the 8th Avenue to take the subway. They have no choice. You're putting their life, no choice. The fourth one, the dollar van, you never addressed that. On your proposal, you mentioned that, but on your plan, you never addressed it. There's no plan for dollar van. The dollar van is the commune van between the Manhattan and Queens Chinatowns, the 3 Chinatowns. Some people use it. People who with the limited resource, limited language access, they cannot take subway because they will get lost. Everybody took subway. We know it's really unpredictable. Sometimes they change route, you get lost. They use those dollar van, commuter van. What's your plan? So far, there's no plan on this one. The fifth one is the loading zone and the parking spots. On your plan, there's no balance. You're taking away the parking spots and you're putting on the loading zone, but you're squeezing those resources from our small business, especially between 51st Street to 60th Street. It's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's 12 hours. You're putting those small business live. They're struggle already. You're squeezing them. And also the 8th Avenue shopping area is it's a hub for nearby neighborhood for people who have the resource. If they are able to not live on 8th Avenue, maybe their parents, their grandparents are live there. They will move out to nearby area, Dyker High, Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst. They will live somewhere else. They drive to 8th Avenue. It's a shopping hub. I don't live there. I live nearby. I shop on 8th Avenue. If I can, I walk. Why? There's no parking spots. I understand. The traffic is horrible. People who live there, people who use there, people who root their family there, everybody sees it. There's a traffic issue. There's a congestion issue. But the thing is, your proposal is not resolving it. That is not the answer we're looking for. So we want to work with the DOT to find a better solution. So the last will be, have you studied environmental justice area impact? I know the state has the congestion pricing. When they're doing this pricing, they have the environmental justice area study impact. Our community is a low-income immigrant community. We fall into the category. Have you studied it? What's the impact? Environmental justice. I'm looking forward for those answers. Thank you.
We've been working with FDNY on reviewing the plans as we do for all of our plans. For the environmental justice impact review, it's not something we do for street improvement projects typically. It's something we can look into.
And the other thing is, so with commuter vans, we did not reach out to them, but obviously with the licensing, we do have relationships, at least know them. And that's a good point. They are somebody that we actually should be talking to about this. So we did talk about we did talk to New York State Transit, but I don't think we did commuter van companies, right? So we know who they all are, at least the legal ones. We know who they are. We can definitely talk to them about it. Thing that's come up, multiple questions tonight, obviously, are the bus stop spacing on 7th Avenue. And that, so I do want to say that that's something we have heard loud and clear. Again, whatever the fate of this plan is, which again, we don't know what that is yet, but we did hear about the bus stop space, and that's something we can certainly talk to New York City Transit about to talk about that issue. So we have heard that.
Thank you. I'd like to call someone from the floor. We'll call Danny Soy. Thank you, Danny.
Hello, how are you? My name is Danny Choi. I'm working in this neighborhood since 1989, 32 years. I believe I know this neighborhood more than your guys. And you mentioned that you have 400 survey. You can see the papers there. Thousand people say no on this project. This is a wrong project. It will hurt us, hurt our community. Please report to DOT, stop and cancel this project. I would say no, no, no. Everybody hold on me. Say no, no, no. One more time louder. No, no, no. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take any questions at the table? I know. Okay, Marilyn Melman, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you for taking my comments. I agree with the community as well. I think it's outrageous to take away all these parking spots from hardworking people. And I think it's a gift to transportation alternatives. You're putting bikes everywhere. Well, people need their cars. And I do have a question. When are you going to license and insure bikes? You're spending millions of dollars on these bike lanes, but they have no skin in the games. Bikes have hit pedestrians. What? No insurance, nothing. When are they going to have a license like an automobile driver? And you're making all car drivers are terrible, all bike drivers are wonderful. This is not true. People drive cars, they have to pick up children, they have elderly parents to take to hospitals, they need to use them for work. This is the elite telling the working people, we know better than you. So if you could answer my question, when will they get a license to be driving on city streets? When will they have insurance? If they hit a pedestrian, well, they have no insurance. Who's going to pay for that?
I have to look into that issue because I'm not sure that's even under the city of New York's jurisdiction. So I have to check that.
The city of New York, it certainly is. They're just a powerful lobby that are shoving bikes all over. 25% of the population are senior now in New York City. They are not getting on bikes. You can't go on a subway, you may get pushed. So you have no alternative but to use a car. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Take another question from the floor. Ray Chen.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ray Chen. I do the business on 8th Avenue more than 30 years. I know like you want to change the, like Paul said, you want to change the 8th Avenue to one-way street. It's fine. But why you don't plan to do the one-way street like 13th Avenue, Borough Park? Let all the only one-way street, then more car can coming up. And secondly, there's an 8th Avenue, a lot of double park, yes, because a lot of truck, they go to put the merchandise in the store. So you can do it is like make the schedule from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Then let all those truck the road, the merchandise. After that, then no truck will become on the 8th Avenue. Then I think it's they had no, for sure, you had no double park in the area. And it saves a lot. And also, if you see it, people double park, you call the police, inform the policing, get like 2 or 3 police on 8th Avenue, just give them the ticket. So I think 8th Avenue will solve the problem. And secondly, you said on 8th Avenue, you put the bike lane for 6 feet in the side of 8th Avenue. People will go to use it like electrical scooters. They will using the opposite side, not on one way. They go the opposite, get hit, then get more danger to the people. And when you take the bicycle, put the bicycle lane on it and take out like 200 parking space, where the people go to park the car, they make the neighborhood more dangerous. People will park in the side, double park in the side of the street. So how can those emergency car to pass away? So you make the community it's worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Gonzalez is next on Zoom.
Good evening, everybody.
I have more comments than questions. This meeting is supposed to address safety concerns. The proposal involves increasing safety for pedestrians, motorists, and the community at large. Okay, so my whole thing is that we have an overabundance of motorbikes, mopeds, electrical scooters. These, when you say that you're going to make a bike lane, very few people ride bikes. The community was overrun by city bikes. The whole district, you see city bikes everywhere. And I often pass those locations in my car and I see that nobody's really using a city bike. People are using motorized bikes, motorized scooters, mopeds, and whatever. Now, these people that are using these electrical vehicles, there is absolutely no way to identify who they are. They ride on the sidewalks, they don't obey any traffic laws. They don't use helmets like a bicycle person has to. This is just like there's thousands and tens of thousands of them in our district. And they're just like zooming by, they when I'm driving, they'll drive right in front of me. I mean, I have to hit my brakes and hopefully nobody will hit me from behind, because these people, there's no laws that apply to them. Now, this is my concern, because you say that you're going to work with law enforcement, but law enforcement is practically non-existent in this district. I mean, you literally have to kill somebody for the police to get out of their car. And I don't know if there's a shortage of police officers. I don't know what it is, but there is no law enforcement going on, especially when it comes to pedestrian or motorist safety in this community. So what I don't understand is that, proposing to make 7th Avenue one way, 8th Avenue another way, how is that going to solve our problems if people don't respect and follow the law? And if I run somebody over in my car, I don't even know who they are, because there's no way of identifying these people. So I think that the problem, the problems that we have with safety are not going to be addressed by converting these two avenues to one way. I think that our safety most relies on, accountability. It's the accountability of people following the law that exists. If you are on a bike, whatever it is, a moped, a scooter, whatever, you should be wearing a helmet, not propping your, 1-year-old child in the front, of your vehicle and doing 40 miles an hour because you can, because there's no law here that protects anybody from those people. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. I've seen people dash right in front of me. And I'm like terrified now. I'm an anxiety driver where that never used to exist before.
Okay, I'm sorry, Cynthia. Thank you very much. We want to try to get through all the people here, and the DOTs. I'm not going to have them all night. I'm sorry, but thank you very much, Danny Chen. And thank you guys, and I appreciate everybody. And we're gonna keep going through the names, and we'll keep it as brief as we can, and try to keep these guys here as long as we can, so everyone gets a chance to speak. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Actually, I want to scream. I want to yell with them. This is how we feel. The whole plan start with advisor board. It's handpicked by you guys. Try to make that plan go through. After you lost in the court, then you come around doing the show to everybody. Can you ask yourself, what did you did to this community? Shame to yourself. Yes. You keep telling us you're going to listen to us. Yes, I am going to listen, but get out from here. Anything change after all the presentation, you hear loud and clear. We all against Committee Board 10, Committee Board 12. They all vote to against this plan. I'm sure Committee Board 7 gonna do the same thing. Let me ask you guys, how long you take to get a speed hump in the street? How can you deal with the DOT people on your history? Long time. It takes long to make it happen. But this plan, if we don't stop it, it's already on the road. The whole plan is under construction. What we feel, it's a whole lot of things, doing something to hurting our community. We build it up. It's not that easy. We take 30-something years to build it like right now. Yes, reason zero. Pardon me to say that, BS. He took the office for 8 years already. People dying more than he take the office. That kind of plan, that kind of idea is not going to work to the whole New York City. Go back to talk to your boss. Time's up. Get out of there. Thank you.
Okay, Louis Tzu. Yes, we heard that.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Louis Liu. So I just want to tell the DOT guys, the commissioner here, right? So you guys only have two options way to do. The first one, close to your plane, close to your crazy planes, and the keep saying. The option two, change it to two-way to one-way. We agree. Move the bike-lane to 6th Avenue. Keep two traveling. That's the only way you guys can do that. Otherwise, I'm promising you guys, you're not gonna be starting your job in our own community.
Thank you, Ben Zhu. Okay, I think he's gone. Rosita Chan.
Yes, my name is Rosita Chan, and I changed my appointment to join this meeting. But I listened to the same presentation, same feedback. But I believe that it's going to be a same result for this meeting. It's no answer. I appreciate Paul Mack point out all the disadvantage. I hope DOT can seriously consider the changes for the proposal, not just listen. Thank you.
Okay, unfortunately, I do have to go, but I just want to say a couple of things before I go. First, I want to acknowledge Wei Chang. from Justin Brannon's office. Thank you so much for being here. I guess and for the sake of time, we can get into a conversation and you can respond to the one question that I have. I would love to dig in with you and have more information about the outreach plan that you utilized in 2020. Like if you can share copies of the survey questions, that would be really helpful for me to understand your process. But again, we'll put all of this in writing. I also want to say, I'm the research and evaluation director for a nonprofit. And so research and evaluation is my work. And what I will say to you guys tonight as a suggestion and a recommendation, if you are seriously going to take the input of this community into consideration, what I would highly recommend, because part of what we're seeing here are not just the flaws in the proposal, we're seeing the flaws in a process that's broken. And perhaps it's not your fault. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But again, as a research and evaluation director, I know that when you present or when you start a process of trying to gather information or data, and when you start with a quantitative process like a survey, you've already set the agenda. And we need to move away from those models of doing these top-down ways of collecting data. We need to have more inductive processes where you listen to people qualitatively and then you do the quantitative, because this is you basically, when you put a survey in front of someone, you've locked them into the agenda that you want them to respond to. And so here we are with a process that was informed by data that you already kind of decided you wanted to understand. So my suggestion to you would be to start over, and to start over with a qualitative process where you actually, and I know it's messy and I know it's time consuming, but this what you're witnessing here is a much bigger problem that goes to the root of how we need to be a lot more equitable in the way that we engage with communities. And it starts with a whole bunch of things, including the processes by which we learn and we know things. So and I'm happy to sit with you guys and talk more about a different process, but this process that you engaged in is not the right process, particularly for a community like ours. And so in addition to that, there's a lot of frustration that's been built up in this community, right? And I want to echo something that someone else brought up, which is we're on record, guys, for over a decade, asking for a comprehensive truck study along 3rd Avenue. Nothing's happened. So when you come here and you say to us, this is about safety, we get that, but we've lost a lot of people on 3rd Avenue and nothing has been done about that. And so I think what you're seeing here tonight reflects a community that doesn't feel heard. From my perspective, a process that you all have as a tool to engage a community that's broken. And maybe this is something that needs to be legislated or rethought with the new administration, because I have to say that the process of engaging communities in New York City has been a dismal failure across the board, not just with your agency. So I sympathize with what you're trying to do, but I also, again, I want to, if you're very serious and committed to heeding our input, we should start over.
We've got 5 more minutes with the DOT. We're going to call another person from the floor, Zhang Lin.
Zhang is not here, so they tell me to take his place. So real quick, my question is, I've been listening to this for about 7, just like Paul. Every time I listen to this, I hear more, I learn about more and more about the history behind this. From what I understand, that the reason the DOT is doing this because it was asked by the Community Board 7. right? So here's my question. My question is, Community Board 7 knew about this for over 20 years, right? How come, hold on, let me finish. How come there was no transparency to the Asian community that this is happening? We have gentlemen and this gentleman saying that they've been here for over 30-something years. I've been here since 1983, okay? And 7 months ago, that's when I heard that the conversion. So that's my question is actually towards the community board. How come there's no transparencies to the people?
Good evening. I'm Jeremy Laufer. I'm the district manager for the community board. And forgive me, and I have been for the past 20 years. I wrote a letter in 2003. I wrote a letter in 2015. We asked them to conduct a study for pedestrian safety, traffic safety, which included the possibility of making it one way. The 2015 request came out of meetings that we had when there were discussions of putting a friendship arch on 8th Avenue. We supported that, and we said, in addition to that, we want a comprehensive pedestrian safety study for 8th Avenue, and we'd be willing to look at the possibility of it being a one-way. We did not endorse the concept. We wanted it to be examined. That study failed. Both studies failed. So there was nothing to bring to the community.
Thank you for your service, 20 years. But again, this community is made up of immigrants and stuff, right? We have chairs and co-chair from the immigration committee that no one really know about stuff. We talk about transparency. We talk about breakdown of communication. There's a breakdown. If you can't do it, step the hell down and let someone else do it, because the community is growing. There's a lot of Asian in this community. They need to know what's going on. We talk about their involvement. They look at back of the shirt, right? Input from the community, but it's not coming back down to information, so we can't feed information back up. So there is a break in the communication from the community board. I'm pointing at this side, back to the people. But thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'm going to call Sharon Z. Rincon from Zoom. Sharon, if you're there, you can unmute yourself. She's one of the attendees with their hand up. You click on the attendees. If you highlight the attendees there in the top right corner. Okay, we'll come back to Sharon. We're going to go with Zimal Chen.
OK， 大家晚上好。谁可以帮我翻译一下 ？OK， 我在八大道开店有20年了。第一次看见 DOT 这个设计的时候，我觉得这个设计非常的白痴。
I own a small business on 8th Avenue area over 20 years. And the first time when I saw your proposal, I think this is a stupid plan.
首先，他把所有的停车位给取缔掉，190多个，这个就可以把八大道商家做瘫痪掉。
First, you took away 183 parking spots. This move will kill all the business along 8th Avenue.
还有，他把那个道改成只能通行一部车的单车道，这是非常非常笨的做法。
Plus, you make the travel lane to one travel lane with a bike lane over there. This plan is stupid.
如果发生事情的时候，警车、救护车、消防车怎么通过？
If there's any emergency, one travel lane. How do you have the emergency vehicles passing through, either the fire truck or the police car?
我希望交通局用他们的智商好好的想一想，弄个好的方案出来给我们，或者就停掉，不要做。
I'm really requesting your agency to review this plan. Just review this plan, because this plan doesn't work. If you cannot come back with a better plan, you have to stop this plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go back to Sharon Z. Rincon. I apologize, Sharon. Now we're going to allow you to talk.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon C. Rincon. I'm the climate justice organizer on UPROSE, and I'm here to give a statement on behalf of our organization. The DOT's proposal lacks meaningful community input and threatens to exacerbate transportation equity issues in Sunset Park's Chinatown community. Sunset Park's Chinatown, like many Asian communities, was one of the hardest hit communities from the COVID-19 pandemic, with rising incidents of racism, xenophobia, and violence months before the city shut down. This makes it especially important to ensure community-led processes to move public resources and funding to support households and small businesses. The DOT has failed to show what the community feedback and input has been from their outreach efforts and how it's incorporated into their proposal. DOT's proposal will result in eliminating 183 parking spots and will significantly impact access to transportation on 7th and 8th Avenue. DOT is only approaching this from a data standpoint, and their proposal is not based on the lived experiences and everyday transportation concerns and priorities of the community. UPROSE has been at multiple community meetings where DOT has presented their proposal, and there was always overwhelming opposition and concern expressed by community and business participants. We have not seen how these concerns have been documented or addressed. We cannot allow DOT to haphazardly implement a proposal void of community input and support, and that may further harm community members and small businesses that have had to fight for their livelihoods and well-being. Thank you for your time and for letting me speak.
Yes, so I would just like to say I appreciated my time here tonight. I really appreciate all the feedback I got from everyone in the community and also people who joined on Zoom in the chat. But thanks for hanging in with the technical issues. So I'm happy that heard some comments from you as well. As I said, we're going to take everything that we heard back and we would come back to you on next steps. And we look forward both to the written statements we're going to get from the community board. I'm sure we are. And also any other feedback that anybody may have here, we are willing to listen and we'll be taking it. So thank you.
I do thank everyone.
Can I just make a little statement? So thank you, DOT. I don't care. I really don't care. I really don't care. So may I spend 1 more minute with the DOT? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I just want to take this opportunity to really thank every one of you for coming in person. Because it's so important that we have the opportunity to really talk to you guys face to face. So thank you very much for that. So I really hope that don't look at us as crazy people that are trying to make a scene on Zoom, but instead please understand our concerns. Because with the implementation of your plan, basically, I think our community will be suffer for many, many generations to come. So I guess on behalf of the Chinese community and on behalf of the Asian Affairs Committee, I would like to present a letter to you. Excellent. Basically explaining how we got the 20,000 petitions and how we got the 99.99% of the merchants that are doing that. And I think overall we have one message to the board commissioner, right? And what is?
Yeah. So please listen to the people's voice and show us how democracy works, because you cannot dictate how we live without listening to our voice. Thank you.
And also this is a copy.
Today the meeting to 9 p.m. Why too early?
没关系，我们还。
好啦，而家可以嗌下